If you're looking for a cheap but functional and good-looking guitar or bass stand, this is the project for you. For the cost of a single 2x4 and some screws, you can put this project together in a single afternoon. And it'll hold solid body, hollow body, electric, acoustic, flying V, full-size bass, three-quarter bass, anything that you can throw at it. So let's get started. We start by taking the 8-foot 2x4 and cutting it down to 38 inches. This will be the vertical piece that will hold the guitar or bass. We set the saw to 3 3/8 inches and run the piece through. That takes that rounded edge or any nasty stuff off one end. Now we set the chop saw to 10 degrees and we cut a 10-degree wedge off the rest of the 2x4. We go 8 inches up and we set it to 10 degrees the other way and we cut it that way. Now save that wedge and then cut this at a 90-degree angle to have two wedges for later. We run that 8-inch piece through the saw to cut it down to 3 3/8. We cut one more piece, 8 3/8 inches long. And we cut that down as well. Now we put them sort of like a T, overlapping, and we mark where they overlap. What we're going to do is create what's called a half lap joint, very strong joint. So we measure half the width of the 2x4, set the blade to half the width, make a trial cut, and make sure that it's half the width. And in this case it's 3/4, which is half of 1 1/2. Then we make successive cuts along this piece. The actual distance between them doesn't matter. You just want them fairly close. Turn it over, get a hammer and bang the heck out of it, and get all that extra stuff out of there. Now there's a bunch of things sticking out, so just take the piece back, run it perpendicular to the saw blade to clean everything off, and you got a nice smooth edge there. Do the same thing with the long piece now. We just did that with the short piece. Get rid of the extra, clean it up, and now you have a very nice half lap joint. We're going to glue this together now, and when this is glued together, this is really strong. So put glue all over the areas of the joint, and then you can put it together, fit it, and then clamp it. You can use 1 clamp or 2 clamps. That'll work fine. Let it sit for at least a half an hour. Now we're going to cut another piece 18 inches long. This piece is going to serve as the legs. We set the saw to 1 1/2 inches. Run that 18-inch piece through. Turn it over. Run it through again for the second leg. And save that thin piece we just had. Set the chop saw to 10 degrees again. And cut 10 degrees on each end of one of the legs. And notice that the square end the square side is out. Do the same thing with the other leg, but notice that the rounded side is out. Now we're going to put this together. Put glue on those 10-degree cut pieces of the 8-inch piece. Put it together. Put the appropriate legs there. And notice those 2 wedges we had before. We're going to use those because it's very hard to clamp a piece that's at an angle, but by putting those wedges there temporarily, it makes it real easy. Now that that's dried, we're going to put a line in the center, and we're going to mark for some holes that will allow us to screw this bottom piece to the vertical. And we took that thin piece that we had left, which was 1.5 inches wide, and we're going to make 1.5 inch square feet. You can use rubber feet if you have them, but if you don't, this works well. And is in tune with our philosophy of making everything from a single 2x4. Turn the base over and glue the feet on. You can clamp them or just let them sit. Either way will be fine. Now you notice I've also drilled 1/2 inch holes about halfway down into the 2x4 and then 3/16 inch holes based on those measurements, and that allows a normal drywall screw to go through. I'm using a 2-inch drywall screw, but you could use a standard 1 5/8. Either way is fine. Put them in and screw them in. This allows you to take it apart later if you'd like to for easier storage. And actually most of this is done. We need to do one more thing. We need to create the holder. So we're cutting one last 8-inch piece, and we're setting the saw to 3/4 inches wide. We're going to cut 2 3/4 inch by 8 inch by 1.5 inch wide pieces. And then we're going to take those pieces and cut them down to 3/4. So the final 2 pieces will be 3/4 by 3/4 by 8 inches long. And there they are. Now I've made a layout here by taking one of those 3/4 square pieces, putting it at 1/2 inch from one end and even on the other end. And now I'm drilling one more hole that's 3/4 inch down from the last 1-inch piece. And I'm putting a 3/4 inch screw so that the head sticks out 1/8 of an inch. I'm doing the same thing on the other holder piece. And this is going to allow us to have sort of like an angled holder as opposed to one that's straight on the top. There we go. You see there that those 3/4 inch screws make the holder pieces come out at an angle. Makes it easier to put the guitar neck or bass neck in. Screw them together, and essentially we're done. There's the guitar sitting in it. Here it is. I've rounded everything off, sanded it, and I've even cut the top at a 45-degree angle to make it look better. Any comments or questions, just email me and I'll be happy to respond.